Good morning, guys. Happy morning. I hope everyone is doing very well. So, this is our fourth class in coordination chemistry. If you remember the previous classes, in the first class, we were talking about or we were learning about important terms used in coordination chemistry. In the second class, we have learned IUPAC nomenclature of coordination compounds. In the third class, we learned isomerism in coordination compounds. So today's class, we're going to learn something called as theories of bonding in coordination compounds. Theories of bonding in coordination compounds. Yes, there are a number of theories proposed to explain the nature of bonding and various properties. First one is Werner's theory. Second one is valency bond theory. Crystal field theory. Fourth one, ligand field theory. Fifth one, molecular orbital theory. However, in the second PUC syllabus, we won't study anything about ligand field theory and molecular orbital theory for coordination compounds. So we'll focus only on first three theories, which is Werner's theory, valency bond theory, and crystal field theory. Yes, first one, Werner's theory. This is the first theory which is proposed regarding the structure of coordination compounds and is proposed by Alfred Werner in 1893. He is considered as father of coordination chemistry. Why? Because he has done so many experiments. He is the first person to discuss details about coordination compounds. So therefore we call him father of coordination chemistry. And how his work goes? His research goes like this. He prepared a large number of coordination compounds by doing the reaction between aqueous COCl3, cobalt chloride, and ammonia. Aqueous cobalt chloride and ammonia. He mixed in different proportions and made following compounds. One is yellow color compound, other one is purple color compound, green color compound, and violet color compound. And all these more compounds are made just by changing the proportion or composition of cobalt chloride and ammonia in different concentrations. So he is able to make, by using only two chemicals, that is cobalt chloride and ammonia, in different proportions. He made so many different compounds. You can see there for examples. So from the data that is given in the table, is it possible for you guys to find the formula for all these complexes? There's a clear clue here. When I'm taking 1 mole of this yellow color complex, it is giving you 3 mole of AgCl. How? If at all I'm using aqueous AgNO3 in excess, meaning this compound when reacts with aqueous AgNO3 excess, giving you 3 moles of AgCl. And second compound giving you with excess AgNO3 giving only 2 moles of AgCl. From this data, can you try to find the name of the compound and as well as the formula of compound? I'll help you with one thing. Yes. So in the examples, the first one is cobalt metal. So we call as central metal atom. What is the coordination number of cobalt? It is 6. Cobalt always forms 6 bonds. Therefore, I must have total 6 ligands for cobalt, right? Now, so how many atoms or groups I have here? There are 3 Cls, there are 6 NH3. So these 9 things should satisfy 6 of the valences of cobalt. Now, it's very clear for us NH3 cannot be outside. Why? Because it cannot act as counter ion. It cannot act as counter ion. So all the ammonia must be inside the bracket. So meaning we have NH3 6 times, and Cl, there are 3 Cl, they can be only outside, Cl3. So this is the formula for the first complex. CO, N is the 6 times, all things in the square bracket, outside is Cl3. If you see clearly from the data, when this complex reacts with AgNO3, as we know, if Cl is inside the square bracket, it can't come out as PPT. If Cl is outside, it can come as PPT. Therefore, it clearly shows there are 3 Cls outside, so there is 3 moles of AgCl that can precipitate. So similarly, can you please pause the video first, try the formula for second one, third one and fourth one. Yes? So I hope you got the answers. I write the answers for the second one, third one and fourth one now. Yes. What is the second one formula? It's very clear. Cobalt can form 6 bonds. So I should have 6 things here all together. Square bracket. Now how many ammonia are there? 5 ammonia are there. So I can write maximum in the bracket NH3 5. But cobalt should have what? 6 bonds. Only 5 are satisfied. So out of 3 Cl, I'm using 1 Cl inside the square bracket. Now all the 6 are satisfied. So total there are 3 Cls. 1 is already used up in the square bracket. So remaining are 2. So the 2 I'll write outside the square bracket. So Cl2 I have. Meaning what? If at all I use AgNO3, only these 2 Cls can come out as precipitate. Therefore I got what? 2 moles of AgCl precipitate on reaction with AgNO3. The Cl which is inside cannot come out. Therefore only 2 AgCl are coming out, though we have total 3 Cl there. Similarly, if I go for the third compound, so cobalt is fixed, we know that, and cobalt can have 6 bonds. 6 coordination number 6. Out of 6, only 4 can be satisfied by ammonia. So NH3 will be 4 times. But out of 6, only 4 are done. So I should use what? Out of 3 Cl, I should use 2 Cl inside. So all is satisfied. Now remaining is how many Cls? 1 Cl. It makes sense. Though there are total 3 Cls, only 1 can come out as precipitate. Therefore, we can see clearly 1 mole of AgCl precipitate, because other 2 Cls cannot come as precipitate when you do reaction with aqueous AgNO3. Similarly, the fourth complex also having same formula. The structure varies a little bit. We don't worry about that. The idea is very simple. Similar complex, we have different, let's say, formula color we have. So we have 1 mole of AgCl precipitation. So kindly note, 3 Cl is common everywhere, but number of Cl coming out as ions or AgCl is very different. Okay, so that's what the very complicated thing Alfred Werner observed. You may be knowing now because we discussed about nomenclature, everything together. But when Alfred Werner was doing these experiments, nobody is aware of, let me say, compound which are like this. When you see Cl, you are expecting to have precipitate. But this is the first time that Alfred Werner observed, though we have 3 Cls in the complex, 2 or 3 or 4 complex, we still don't have all the 3 moles of AgCl. Only 2 or 1 is available, but not all the 3. So it's a bit complicated at that time. When you think about, let me say, in point of chemistry people, it's very complicated. So he studied physical, chemical and isomeric behavior of these complexes by using some electric conductivity experiments. And these compounds are called as complexes because they appeared unusual at the time and were difficult to understand, because you have Cl, you are expecting it to have what? AgNO3 reaction to form AgCl. You are seeing there example 2, 3, 4. We have 3 Cls everywhere, but we get only 2 Cl or 1 Cl as precipitation. So therefore it was very unusual at the time to find out. So these compounds differ from each other. I mean, I'm talking about these 4 compounds you see here. They're differing in each other where in chloride activity, one is giving 3 moles of AgCl, one is giving 2 moles of AgCl, one is giving 1 mole of AgCl, and so on and so forth. Yes. Now, if you see clearly what we discussed till now, all the 3 chlorine atoms in the complex 1 are ionizable. We are seeing the complex formula. So the 3Cl we are writing outside, therefore all the 3 are ionizable. You get 3 moles of AgCl. In the complex 2, if you see the formula what I gave you, out of 3Cl, only 2Cl is outside, therefore they can have only 2 moles of AgCl. 1Cl is very busy in the square bracket to form coordinate bond and it's not available to form precipitate. And similarly complex 3, the green complex I'm talking about, so there are out of 3 chlorine, 2 are used up in the square bracket, so only 1 is outside the square bracket, so only this one can become ionized, therefore you get only 1 mole of AgCl. You can see clearly 1 mole of complex 1 gave 3 moles of AgCl, meaning ionizable are 3, 2 ionizable Cl, 1 ionizable Cl respectively. So this is the observation made by Alfred, and these observations along with the results of conductivity experiments helped Werner to propose his theory. I'm not going for the complete details of the experiments conducted by Alfred Werner. They are slightly difficult to understand right now because you have to study so much about electrochemistry there, so we don't discuss about those things right now. What I'm doing is, the main thing or the very important thing here is we should learn what are the assumptions or the postulates made by Werner from these experiments, and the assumptions or the important points made by Alfred Werner, we call them as postulates of Werner's theory, which is very important. Yes, you can see here postulates of Werner's theory of coordination compounds. It's very important for the exams. So please write this question, this topic, this postulates again and again, practice properly. Yes. So postulate number 1. In coordination compounds, metals show 2 types of valences: primary valency and secondary valency. VALENC valency. Don't use Y, use VALENC valence. Before we go for the first point, I want you guys to pause the video and write 2 things. Number 1, I want you guys to write the IUPAC nomenclature of this compound. First one, you do the IUPAC nomenclature because you know that, and try to find out in the given complex which is the metal atom, which are the ligands, which are the counter ions. I want you to list out the things from the video. Just pause the video and try out how far you're able to get it right. Yes, I hope you have done it. Yes. Now I'm calling out the answer. Check out. The name of this complex is hexaamine cobalt 3 chloride. Once again, hexaamine cobalt Roman number 3 chloride. Now tell me, what is the metal here? That is cobalt. What are the ligands? Is it only NH3 are ligands or Cl3 ligand? In this example, for sure, all the ammonia are inside, so they are only ligands. So ammonia or amine are ligands here. Cl3, all the Cl3 is outside, so therefore they are not ligands, they are only counter ions. And what is the oxidation state of cobalt here? +3. So cobalt will have +3 oxidation state here, and these 6 amine ligands are here, and the Cl3 is a counter ion. Okay, right. So why I am talking about this one now? In coordination compounds, if at all you see, the metals will have two types of valencies. One is called as primary valency, other one is called as secondary valency. What is the meaning of this? To understand this better, can you please pause the video again and write the ions formed from this complex? Ions. What ions you get? I'm writing down here. So the answer will be ions. If we write properly, you get COH3. You can't divide the contents of square brackets, therefore I am putting a square bracket here. So Cl is outside, so it can come out. The Cl minus, there are total 3 Cl minus, so therefore we get plus 3 charge. So these are the ions I will be getting from what? The above complex. Yes, now first one, this is called as primary valency. This is your primary valency, and whatever you have in the square bracket is called as secondary valency. So this is your secondary valency. Now see the first point. In coordination compounds, metals show, is very important word, metals show two types of valencies. One is primary valency, other one is secondary valency. Now see the second point. The primary valencies are ionizable, isn't it? You can see there clearly. Primary valency is ionizable and is satisfied by negative ions. You can see Cl is negative charge. Be careful. In the Werner's time, during Werner's time, the primary valencies are satisfied by negative ions. But later we found out we can use, or there are complexes where even positive ions are satisfying primary valency. Okay, so here we have primary valency, that is Cl. Secondary valency is NH3 ligands. Right. So the primary valency is equal to oxidation state. Important point once again. You can see here the cobalt oxidation state is how much? 3 plus 3. What is the number of ligands Cl we have here outside? 3. So oxidation state will be same as primary valency. So primary valency will be equal to oxidation state of a metal. So let's revise the 3 points once again. First one, in coordination compounds, metals show two types of valencies. One is primary valency, one is secondary valency. Primary valencies are ionizable and satisfied by negative ions. Third point, primary valency is equal to oxidation state of the metal. Next, fourth point. The secondary valencies are non-ionizable and are satisfied by neutral molecule or negative ions. If you see the cobalt complex, what I gave you there, CONH3 6 times plus 3. Where is my secondary valency set? So this is my secondary valency. You remember, whatever we have in the square bracket cannot be ionized. I told you that, right? So whatever we have in the square bracket cannot be ionized. Meaning what? This is your secondary valency and this is non-ionizable. So secondary valencies are non-ionizable and are satisfied by neutral molecules. Amine is a neutral ligand, we know that. Negative ions, if at all you remember, chlorine can be brought inside to make it as a ligand, so it can be negative ion also. And it's not there at the time of Alfred Werner, but the secondary valency can be positive ion also possible. But at the time, Werner's time, we were not knowing about positive ligands. Okay, so secondary valencies are non-ionizable and are satisfied by neutral molecule or negative ions. Next one. The secondary valency is equal to coordination number. You see there, what is the coordination number of cobalt? I said in the beginning, 6. So the secondary valency is equal to coordination number and is fixed. Cobalt will always show 6 coordination number. So it is the coordination number. Next one. The ions are groups, ligands, bound to the secondary valences, the central metal atom, have characteristic arrangement depending on the coordination number. For example, I gave you one complex there, CONH3 6 times plus 3. Can you guys guess what is the shape of this complex? We don't know, sir. You may say. But you remember, I said in the previous classes, if the coordination number is 6, the shape is octahedral. The shape is octahedral. Cobalt comes in the center, ammonia 1, ammonia 2, ammonia 3, amine 4, amine 5, amine 6. Ligands will come here. So this is the geometry of complex which has 6 ligands always. Okay. So the secondary valences will give you what? Characteristic geometry depending on the coordination number. I told you, if the coordination number is 6, octahedral possible. If coordination number is 4, there are two shapes possible: square planar possible or tetrahedral. We'll see the further details later. Coordination number 4, square planar possible or tetrahedral. Last point, octahedral and tetrahedral square planar geometrical shapes are more common in coordination compounds. See, there are so many shapes possible: linear, trigonal, bipyramidal. There are so many shapes possible. But out of all the shapes possible in coordination compounds, the common things you find is octahedral, tetrahedral, square planar. They're the common shapes. But you have other shapes, but they're not very common. So these are the possible shapes, common shapes. So these are the postulates of Werner's theory of coordination compounds. Just pause the video and write down the points, whatever you remember till now. If you remember properly, first postulate was what? In coordination compounds, metals show two types of valences: primary valency and secondary valency. The second point is the primary valences are ionizable and are satisfied by negative ions. What is the third point? The primary valency is equal to oxidation state of the metal. What is the fourth point? The secondary valences are non-ionizable and are satisfied by negative ions or neutral molecules. What is the fifth point? Yes, we remember the secondary valence is equal to the coordination number. And seventh point, the secondary valence will be giving definite geometry. And seventh point, octahedral, tetrahedral, square planar geometrical shapes are more common in coordination compounds. So these are the important points of Werner's coordination theory. Yep, right. So last one, we have seen the postulates of Werner's theory. Now we are going to see demerits of Werner's coordination theory. Though Werner was able to explain the structure of many coordination compounds, he was not able to explain why only certain metals form complexes. All the complexes made by let's say Werner are cobalt compounds. Question to be asked: sodium is metal. Why it does not form coordination compounds? There are so many other metals which do not form complexes. Why only few metals are able to form complexes is the biggest question which Werner is not able to answer. Second point, there are some complexes which are attracted by the magnet and they're able to bend the light to the right side, left side. If you remember optical isomerism. So coordination compounds show optical isomerism. Why only certain compounds are showing optical isomerism and why certain complexes have magnetic property, these things are not explained by Werner's theory. So therefore, because of these two drawbacks, we are searching for a second theory, a new theory, which is called as valency bond theory. So therefore, to overcome the demerits of this theory, we are having new theory, which will be made in next video. Thank you.